I would very much like to welcome Mark Gallagher to the Brilliant Minds bunker today. Mark has been a key figure in Formula One racing for many years, having been on the management board of Cosworth, Red Bull Racing and Jordan Grand Prix. Mark is a public speaker, media analyst and author. Mark, your colleagues in Formula One have been directly involved with the NHS in the development of an innovative breathing aid. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, indeed. Well, in Formula One, with the shutdown that's occurred as a result of the coronavirus challenge, we have all of these technology businesses which are normally devoted to Formula One, and now they have all this spare capacity. And 7 of the UK-based Formula One teams got together under Project Pit Lane, as it was called, and they contribute to the government initiative, which is known as the Ventilator Challenge. Now, the Ventilator Challenge has been sent into industry. So you're talking about large companies like British Aerospace, Airbus, Rolls-Royce, Unilever, for example. 7 Formula One teams jumped into that program and offered their services. And essentially what's been happening is the Formula One teams have gotten into the job of either reverse engineering existing technology to produce it more efficiently, or to produce components which together can be assembled into making the much needed ventilators. So that's been the Pit Lane project. There is a second project which was undertaken by the Mercedes-Benz Formula One team's engine division. Now, this is a separate division, separate from the Formula One team. It's based in Brixworth in Northampton. And what they've actually done, and this is very much to your point, is they have developed a second project, and this is with University College London and University College London Hospital Trust. So UCL engineers and the engineers from the Mercedes-Benz engine division got together and decided to very quickly work out how to manufacture a CPAP breathing aid. Now, these are the kind of breathing aids that many people would be familiar with for treating things like sleep apnea and snoring. So this is actually a face mask. It's not a ventilator, so it's not invasive, just sits over your face. It's a much simpler piece of equipment. But in the case of the coronavirus pandemic in Italy, it turned out that about 50% of the very seriously ill patients could be treated very effectively with CPAP machines as opposed to ventilators. So can you believe the Mercedes-Benz engine people managed to engineer a solution in 100 hours?
Wow.
Which is an incredibly fast time. And in 100 hours, they were able to deliver 10 prototype units to UCL to undergo clinical testing. And that was a whole 10 days ago. And now they're actually manufacturing 1,000 of these a day, 1,000 a day. The entire factory, which is about 600 people, has been completely reconfigured to producing breathing aids. So they're not making any Formula One engines anymore. They're just making breathing aids. And the final part of this story to share with you is that together with UCL, Mercedes-Benz have now put all of that engineering technology in terms of how you manufacture these, they've put that into the open market. Basically, they've just allowed anyone in the world to download those files so that you can manufacture these breathing aids for any country in the world which is battling the coronavirus. So it's been a wonderful example of teamwork and collaboration, but most of all of Formula One's high-speed, rapid prototyping environment and the ability to work together to meet a profound challenge, albeit not a challenge of a sporting nature anymore, but a challenge of a life-saving nature.
And you said that they were used in Italy. Are they being used in the UK now? Are these available in the UK?
Yes, so the CPAP breathing units, as I said, they're commonly used for treating things like sleep apnea. It basically allows a continuous air pressure to be delivered into the patient. So it's a very significant breathing aid. As I said, it's not as invasive as a ventilator, but the benefit of this technology is it is well understood. Difficulty was they just didn't have enough of these units. And they also, the old designs were, for example, designed on 2D drawing boards, 2D systems, 2D CAD systems. What Mercedes have done is they have basically brought this into the 21st century by reverse engineering it into a 3D environment. So they've created 3D design and manufacturing files so that you can more efficiently produce these products. Essentially, you can print them through their machine tools, and this is a much faster way in order for them to be able to do it. So again, it's a kind of technology that's commonplace in Formula One, this kind of rapid prototyping environment. But with all the spare capacity that we currently have with Formula One having the pause button pressed on it, we've been able to work together to basically deliver a much needed resource into the healthcare sector. And talking to some of my friends in the industry who have been frankly pulling all-nighters on this. I mean, I know some folks have been working all the hours that they can. They're finding it enormously rewarding because they really feel like they're making a contribution. And one of them said to me last night, he said, I'm getting every bit as much satisfaction out of doing this as anything that I've ever done in my career in sport. And he said, I don't think we're ever going to forget this period in our professional career. So it's it's been a terrific example of that kind of teamwork and collaboration.
Do you think, obviously the NHS has had lots of offers of help at the moment because people are being furloughed, and as you've just said, people have got time on their hands. What do you think the pitch is going to look like, when we go back to business as usual?
Well, I know that you have spoken to Professor Martin Elliott, and Martin Elliott, being a professor of cardiothoracic surgery at Great Ormond Street Hospital, he and I actually have had a conversation about this very point, because we both believe that huge opportunity will come out of this period that we're going through. Companies and organizations, and indeed whole sectors of industry, will realize that there are perhaps smarter ways of doing business, that we can deliver amazing solutions if we really all put our minds to it. So I think the view from a Formula One perspective is that the last couple of weeks have really crystallized the fact that our industry, Formula One industry, is able to do some pretty cool things and able to do so very quickly. And perhaps beyond the coronavirus challenge, what we should then be doing is using those skills to say, what else can we do which is going to benefit society as a whole and actually drive some of our wonderful engineering into other areas. Now, of course, some of the teams in Formula One already do this kind of thing. McLaren, for example, has an applied technologies business, which has been doing great work for well over a decade. Williams Formula One team has their advanced engineering business. So a number of teams have already had diversified engineering offerings. I think this will now accelerate a little bit further because clearly there is capability within Formula One. We just need to unlock that a little bit further and maybe also show other companies how they too can think differently about finding fast solutions to some of the challenges that we all face.
You mentioned Project Pit Lane specifically. I'm quite intrigued to understand what collaboration looks like in practice when you've got representatives from McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes, Renault, Racing Point, Williams, all in one room together, and they're usually competitors. I mean, what does that look like?
Well, there's good news, and that is actually we've been doing that all the time, because in 1994, we had a double fatality in Formula One. Ayrton Senna lost his life while leading the San Marino Grand Prix. And the day before that, Roland Ratzenberger lost his life during qualifying. And one of the results of that tragic weekend was a major focus within Formula One on coming together and collaborating in order to better manage risk. And that has been done very effectively. So for 20 years after the Senna-Ratzenberger fatalities, we did not have a single further driver fatality. So we had a 20-year hiatus in driver fatalities. And that was as a result of all the competitor teams, exactly as you say, coming together. And through the safety working group and the technical working group, all these competitors sit around the table with each other and with the governing body, with the regulator, the FIA. And together we share best practices and ideas and come up with the way in which to raise the level for the whole of the sport. So actually working in a collaborative way on safety is something that we've been doing for a very long time. And I think therefore, while it may not have been the work of a moment for Project Pit Lane to burst into life, the one thing that you can be absolutely certain about is that the moment the Project Pit Lane was tabled, there will have been a huge level of enthusiasm and high motivation across all the Formula One teams to do what they could to help. And because of our environment, where we have behaviors which are all around teamwork, which are all around meeting ambitious targets, this is second nature to us. So the reality is although it looked from the outside like all these competitors were somehow finding a way to work together for the first time, actually, I think we all share common behaviors. And in fact, we have previously collaborated together very successfully.
Moving on to Formula One for a moment, I know there'll be people listening here who will be, petrol heads, as we call them. I know that, well, as I understand it, the first 8 races are either postponed or cancelled. What do you think the industry will look like when the travel and quarantine restrictions are lifted?
Well, the big question is very much the when that is going to happen, because of course, there is a hope across the industry in terms of employees and suppliers and fans. There's a big hope that somehow we can return to racing this summer, maybe late summer, maybe into the autumn, and have a Formula One World Championship in 2020. If that doesn't happen, due to the fact that travel restrictions perhaps are extended, and the fact that a lot of countries are going to recover from coronavirus at a different rate, it's going to be a different rate of progress. So you can imagine might be quite difficult to have a world championship which is going across borders and traveling long haul in the same way that perhaps we were only taking for granted only a few months ago. So there's a question mark over that. So if it starts this season, it'll have been a difficult year, but there will be something of a recovery. If Formula One does not happen at all in 2020, I'm going to quote Zak Brown, the chief executive of McLaren, on this, who has said this week, Formula One will be in a very fragile state. It's a distinct possibility that 1 or 2 of the teams may not find a way to continue into 2021 unless everyone, again, collaborates and works together in a way that is going to help the industry to survive this challenge. We are all, no matter what industry, whatever business you're in, we are all in uncharted territory. So I think in the same way that the governments of countries have torn up the rule books about economic support and how money is managed and the help that's been given to people, I think in a sport like Formula One, equally there will be a tearing up of the rule book and very much a focus on the fact that we want to save jobs, we want to save companies, and we want to safeguard our future. And that future may not get back to the old normal for quite some time. It might be a year or 2 away before we can see that. So it's choppy waters ahead, no question about it. And in the meantime, the whole of Formula One has shut down. The 3-week summer break that we normally have has been brought forward to now. That 3-week break has been extended to 5 weeks. And so at the moment, no one's going back to work at the earliest until the middle of May, to be honest with you. And we sincerely hope by then we have some clarity over whether we'll be racing this year or whether we're in for a much longer haul.
And on that point, as ordinarily a very busy motivational speaker, have you had to change your business model to accommodate the environment that we're in? What are you doing at the moment in terms of that?
Well, it's been a very interesting period because I think amongst all the challenges that have been thrown up by coronavirus, I think for us all individually, we've had to adapt. And being adaptable is important in any business, no matter what the challenge is. This is a particularly unique set of circumstances. For me, what I've noticed is that staying really close to clients has been important. And so although clients have postponed events, I would say in every case that I'm familiar with, and I had a very busy March and April planned, clients are reorganizing their events for later this year or into 2021. Very pleasingly, I've had a few clients come to me, and interestingly, they've asked me, would you be prepared to deliver your keynote online to all our delegates? And of course, the answer is yes, because I've worked in broadcasting over many years during my career, and the prospect of standing and delivering my keynote doesn't put me off. So the reality is that from our point of view, we're very happy to work with clients in however way they want to. And so delivering keynotes, doing webinars, basically contributing to what clients are needing during these times. I mean, for me, it's been quite enjoyable to help them to solve some of the problems that they've been having. Final thing I should say is that going back to your point on Formula One and the Formula One engineering contribution to the coronavirus challenge here in the UK with the ventilator challenge project. I've been quite heavily involved in some aspects of that, particularly with our supply chain. So helping some of the suppliers to the Formula One industry to get heavily involved in that. That's been taking up quite a bit of my time. And then actually, again, because of that program, there's been quite a lot of media interest. So I've been doing interviews with broadcasters all over the world, trying to explain how motor racing can possibly be helping with the coronavirus challenge here in Europe. And I think to a lot of media in a lot of countries who maybe don't cover Formula One that much, there's been a huge amount of interest in how Formula One's methodologies are actually very suited to the crisis that we're in at the moment.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for your insights. Sadly, we've run out of time, but on behalf of everyone listening, thank you so much for chatting to us today, and keep safe and well. And I look forward to hearing more about those innovations that Formula One are up to. I'm sure there'll be more collaborations in the future. So thank you very much indeed.
Great pleasure. Thank you.